Hello and welcome to Blaze Faith Apparel. Today I'm showing you how to make this gorgeous oversized sweater dress. This pattern is available on my store with a link in the description down below. If you have your own sweater pattern, don't worry, the same principles are there so you can follow along and it should help you out. So first off, start by cutting out all of your pattern pieces. Here I'm doing colour matching. I'm doing different colours, one for the top, one for the bottom, and on the pattern it tells you if it's fabric choice 1 or fabric choice 2, so you can make up with your mind with how you want to style this. I've gone for this really lovely fleece. So here we are pinning all of the edges together all the way around and do the same on both sides. Now we are going to stitch these seams down with a 1 cm seam allowance, and before we do this we're just going to grab the neck bias tape bit that we've got here, fold it in half and pin in place. It's just so that we can quickly stitch this at the same time. I'm stitching this in place with a normal stitch set to the centre with a length of 2.5, which is my normal settings, and it's going to be the same throughout everything. And for every part of this garment I'm going to overlock the raw edges. If you don't have an overlocker, that's fine. You can use a zigzag stitch in the same place all the way around. It's definitely advisable, it's very important that you do this, that you use either the overlocker or zigzag, because the sweater fabric does fray and fall apart a lot and you get a lot of dusty bits. So yes, it's definitely a good idea to follow along with this section. Now we are going to overlock both of the raw edges that we've just stitched, this line here and the neck facing. And this is your neck cuff, so we're just going to fold it in half and press it down all the way. Do this in sections to make sure it's all nice and neat. And this is how your collar section looks. I'm just going to quickly show you your other options. So you can make your own like this, or you can purchase pre-made or pre-designed bias tape lining like this one here. This has the sweater ridging on it. It's okay, but I just don't think it goes perfectly with my design. So it's up to you. If you want to buy this already, then it's as simple as that. You've got it all done, ready to go and cut, and then you will just stitch the seams together at the edge like you did here using the same measurements, and away you go. I definitely prefer this way for this style anyway. It just looks a lot nicer and a lot more cozy for my style. Here we are attaching the neckband to the neck on the top. First off, I start in the middle, so where the seam line is at the back, that's where we're first attaching here. You pin that in place, and then we are going to go forward to the front and find the middle of both sections and pin them together. The reason we're doing this all the way along, and we'll do the same for the side seams in a second, is because the tape section that we've just made, the loop, is a little bit smaller than the opening of the sweater top. This is because we want it to pull in slightly and hold it more in place around your neck. So we've just got to pull and gather. You see here, there we go, and we're pulling and making sure that there's an even amount in between everything. When we head over to the sewing machine, which we're going to do now, we are going to pull the top layer slightly as we stitch along, keeping the bottom layer flat. This means that it's all easing together. A helpful tip is to hold your hands here at the start of a pin. So each section that I've pinned in place is where I use to determine where I'm going to pull from, and then I know that that fabric is spread out evenly between those pin points. Overlock the raw edge, making sure not to catch any of the other sections of the fabric. And this is how the neck opening looks. We are just going to get the iron and press these seams down flat. Now we are going to top stitch this section here, so you can see where the fold of the fabric is. As close to that line as we can, we are going to top stitch all the way along. It's a little bit hard to see on the fluff fabric, but here we go. We're stitching as close as we can, going nice and slowly to make sure it's very neat and in line, and then we are going to continue and do a second line of top stitching just above this one, as close as we can, about 0.1 0.2 centimeters away from this stitch, to go all the way around. The reason that we do this for the neck section is because it moves around a lot and it gets a lot of wear and tear, so it means that the seam will lay flat instead of pulling up around your neck. And here we are continuing on with the second line of stitching. And now your oversized sweater dress neck section is complete. Here we are adding the pockets if you've decided to do this element of the pattern. Match up with the markings on the pattern and pin the pockets to each side like this. Head over to the sewing machine and stitch these in place along these sections here. Once you have stitched all 4 pockets down, head over to the overlocker and we are going to overlock the full length of the skirt sides where the pockets are. Now press the pocket openings flat, and this turns these panels into one piece. Now place both of the oversized sweater base sections together like this, facing together. Now pin everything in place like so, and make sure when we get to the pocket section here that we pin around the curved edge all the way around. We're not going to stitch down that middle section in between the pins. This makes the pocket opening. So this here is the section that we are going to stitch on both sides. Now take both of the arm cuff sections and the base of the sleeve, and we are going to fold these in half and pin them in place. And grab the two sections here for the base binding, and place them right sides together, pin in place along the sides. Now we are going to stitch all of these sections here in place around here across the hems, sleeve and cuff. Starts with the bottom section and stitch it in place. Remember when we get to the pocket section that you need to lift up the foot and twist it round like this, and follow along the line, making sure everything's nice and straight. Make sure the pockets are also matched as you go along, as they can slip out of place. Now we are going to stitch down the hem of the cuff section here. Stitch all the way along with the normal 1 cm seam allowance. Repeat this for the other cuff. Now move on to the base of the arm sleeve and stitch in place. And this is the base of the oversized sweater. It's the hem cuff, so we're going to stitch this in place on both sides. Here we are going to overlock all of the raw edges that we've just stitched in place. The first one that we are going to start with is the base of the oversized skirts. This is the section with the pockets in. Here you have to be quite careful when you get to the section with the pockets. Just here you have to pull on the fabric and make it almost a straight line, and make sure that you don't cut any of the pocket opening as you go around. Here we are finishing off all of those other edges as well, so we've got the hem, cuff and arm sleeve sections to overlock. Now we have our two sections to work with. We are going to place this top section inside, facing together, right sides together, and match them together. So we're going to start with matching the side seams, just like this. Here we go. Find the side seams and match those together on both sides, and then we are going to pin in place all the way around. There shouldn't be any easing needed with this, as the fabrics are the same size. Now head to the sewing machine and stitch all around this edge here with your normal seam allowance. And finish off the raw edge with the overlocker. Now turn your sweater the right way around, and we are going to press all of the elements in place. So press down the pocket opening here and all of the edges. Now we are going to attach the bottom of the sleeve section here, and the long section, the widest section, sorry, of the pattern piece here is at the bottom. So pop them right sides together like this and pin the edges in place, matching the side seams first. Remember here that this section only has one seam, so we are only going to match the bottom seam for the main oversized together, as there's not a top seam for the bottom section on this side here. So match like this and then pin around, matching all the other inside edges, and we are going to repeat that for the other sleeve. Now head over to the machine and we are going to stitch this section all around here on both sides. Now pull on this end and this will open up the sleeve for you, and it's all starting to come together and you can start to see the shape of the sleeve. Now we are going to move on to those cuff sections that we stitched in place and fold them in half like so, and we are going to press them flat. Do the both for both of the cuffs, and then the cuffed hem base here we are going to fold in half in sections and press in place, just like we did for the neck cuff hem. Now we are going to attach these cuffs like this, and as you can see they are going to gather in the sleeve fabric here. And what we need to do, it's the same as we did for the neck collar, except this is a little bit tighter. So match up all the raw edges together and match the bottom seam to the one seam you have on the cuff, and match the other half side and do the same matching in between. As you can see here, I'm doing a lot of pulling. This is because I'm matching the middles each way to make sure that there's enough fabric and it's the same all the way around. So do this process for both of the hem sections. Now we are going to match the hem cuff, right sides together again, match the edges. So the seam lines here we are going to match just like that, because there's one on either side for this one, and then continue to do the same process. Do half in the middle, match here and pin around. Now we are going to sew down the cuff of the sleeve. I'm going to do another angle here so you can see better. We have to pull on the cuff section at each point that we've marked with a pin to make sure that it gathers to the right measurements. Take your time here to make sure everything fits perfectly. And repeat this process for the other cuff. Once you've done this, move on to the base hem cuff section and stitch in place doing the same process. You will notice that there's nowhere near as much stretching here because the cuff hem doesn't need to gather in as much as the cuffs for the sleeves do. Now we're going to head over to the overlocker for the last time and overlock all of those edges of the cuffs. Just be very, very careful here to make sure that you don't catch any other elements, as there's quite a lot to work through, so just be extra cautious. Now finally you get to turn your garment the right way out. Here we go, and this is what your sweater will look like. We are just going to press these cuffs down, and the same with the hem, and make everything nice and neat. Just go through and make sure that you've trimmed away any excess threads. And there you have it, a finished oversized cozy sweater. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learnt something through this tutorial. If you did, I would love it if you could give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my future videos. I do lots of different sewing tutorials on here for everything really, and I also have my own patterns at blazefaithapparel.com. All the information will be in the description. I really hope you liked this video, and have a lovely rest of your day, and thank you for watching. Bye.